Stop asking research questions to chat.
And welcome back to another video. I think you can remember in last video we talked, right? We think my life is terrible, right? This is worthless. I'm not worth living. But when you practice gratitude, the first thing that we can do is to be grateful for our life. Every day when you wake up in the morning, just close your eyes and think, I am grateful for the life that I have gotten, right? I'm grateful for every experience that the life have given me, that made me strong, that taught me many lessons. So be grateful for your life first. As the second step, be grateful for every person who is living around you. Okay, there are many people who have taught you many lessons, good or bad. Okay, there are good people who have given you nice memories, and there are bad people who have taught you good lessons to your life. Be grateful for everyone, no matter who the person is. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the one practice is to practice the gratitude. That is very simple. Take a few moments to do that. So the second practice is to practice mindfulness. During your day, take a few moments, maybe like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, to be mindful about what you are doing. To be mindful, you don't want to sit in one place or like do in a meditation posture. All what you have to do is to be mindful or to focus your mind to what you're doing. Maybe
what is the most important thing in your life right now? You're alive right now, isn't it? Sadhguru, that's okay, Sadhguru, but I have a bundle of 1,000 rupees, Sadhguru, but I don't know where to go. That's fine, that is also important right now. But what is the most important thing right now? You're alive right now, isn't it so? Because you're alive, your family has become important, your money has become important, your country has become important, so many other things have become important only because you're alive right now. And this is the most important thing, that you're alive right now is the most important thing in your life right now. So, suppose tomorrow morning you wake up. You know, every day nearly 250,000 people die on the planet, natural death. 250,000 people die, but you did not. Tomorrow morning you woke up, check, am I alive? If you're alive, will you give yourself one big smile? If you're alive, if you're not, I'll excuse you. Will you give yourself one big smile if you're alive? And if 250,000 people died, at least 2 to 3 million people lost somebody who's dear to them. So you check those 3, 4 people who are very important in your life. All of them are alive today.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
One more big smile, then you check time,
We'll keep this
it's
thing, let's get this
11:30.
thing started.
You're still alive. Don't think this is a joke. What is ticking off here is not the clock, it's your life. It is not the clock ticking away.
Are you looking
Glad
to
I can have
establish your
y'all in
business
here
using an address
with me
other than your
today.
home? Wish you had a professional business address
Just add
and
on
phone
to
number instead of your home address and personal number?
Let me get this ad out of here. So welcome to another
Namo
episode,
Buddhaya.
another week of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. Glad I can be in here. Hey, what's up, O? Hope your day is going well. Hey, who is that? Diggs BTW. Hey, appreciate you. Diggs BTW7. Bigsby, we ain't talking to you. Appreciate you for tuning in over there on the DGTA page. All right. So today we talking about our usual topic, planning and execution. But specifically, we're talking about getting started. The reason I chose this topic today is because we all know what steps to take once we're in the midst of something. You can dodge left, exit stage right. You can do all of these things. Excuse me. But sometimes we don't know how to get started on doing something. So we're going to listen to a few videos that I got queued up and a few things that I want us to pick apart. And y'all just enjoy the ride. I'm going to play some basketball too. All right. So let's go. Getting started with, let's see. Streaming. I'm gonna give this a more specific theme for right now, and then we're gonna branch out to something more broad, because I just want to stay on getting started to finalize, but we're gonna start with something specific like getting started streaming. Let's see how they get it.
Do you want to start a Twitch channel for the very first time? I will likely answer every question that you have right now in this video. So if you just give me a few minutes of your time, then you won't have to mindlessly Google all of your questions and then eventually get bored, give up, and scroll TikTok for 2 hours. Because yes, I'm also guilty of that. In order to understand streaming, we have 3 different ways to stream. You can either stream from your phone, your computer, or your console. If you want to stream directly from your phone and play mobile games, then you're able to just stream directly through the Twitch app. However, you're only able to stream just your game or your camera, so you can't play your game and your camera at the same time using the Twitch app. There are some workarounds for this, and some people are able to do it through other apps, which I have covered on the channel in my mobile playlist videos. But streaming through your phone is relatively limited, so you're not going to be able to do all the cool fancy things and everything that PC streamers use. So if you want to be a PC streamer like the rest of us and be able to control everything about your stream, then having a PC or laptop is going to be the best method for you. Becoming a PC streamer requires a few different things. The first thing is obviously a decent laptop or computer to be able to run everything. The second is having a nice webcam or microphone if you want your viewers to be able to see you or hear you. Ideally, you're going to want to have 2 monitors, so that way you can have one computer screen for your game and another computer screen to be able to read chat and everything, which you'll be able to handle designing your stream, reading chat, and all of that stuff when it comes to streaming through using something called a streaming software. There's a lot of different streaming software, but there's 2 main ones that a lot of people use. The first one that many of you have probably already heard of is called OBS Studio, and the second software is called Streamlabs. Basically, the difference between the two is that Streamlabs is an all-in-one software, so you can control your alerts, your chat, You can design your stream with a bunch of different plugins like alert boxes. However, that being said, it does require your computer to have more resources available to be able to run the software. Now, OBS Studio, on the other hand, is more bare bones and basic, which just has the streaming software and not all the doodads. But you're able to go and download third-party plugins to be able to use inside OBS Studio to design it how you want. So OBS Studio requires less resources than Streamlabs right off the rip, but it does require you to go and do more digging to be able to piece and download together everything you want to be able to do for your stream, which is why for beginners, I recommend using Streamlabs. And you already know that I have videos covering Streamlabs and OBS on the channel. But moving on to console streamers, there's three main consoles. We have the Xbox, we have the PlayStation, and we have the Nintendo Switch. The cool thing about owning an Xbox or a PlayStation is that you're actually able to stream directly from your Xbox or PlayStation to Twitch. And unfortunately, if you have a Nintendo Switch, they have the Twitch app on the Switch, but you're not able to actually broadcast to Twitch, which is kind of funny because it's like Switch, Twitch, that would have been a match made in heaven, but they kind of dropped the ball on that. Though that being said, if you are streaming from your Xbox or PlayStation directly to Twitch, you're not going to be able to do all the fancy alerts, the chat messages, all that good stuff directly through your console. You're only going to be able to stream the game, your webcam, and your microphone, so it's going to be a very minimal looking stream. However, you might notice that there are a lot of streamers that do stream their console games, but that's where a capture card comes into play. The most well-known company that some of you have probably heard of is Elgato, and this is one of their capture cards right here. And essentially what it does is you will connect your console, so your Switch, your Xbox, your PlayStation, and then you'll connect your console to this capture card, and then from the capture card you'll send an HDMI cord to your TV or
never did
second
is
monitor
play
or
a
whatever,
card,
so you
so-
can play your game. And then you also have a USB cable that goes from the capture card to your computer. That way you can broadcast the footage to Streamlabs or OBS Studio and be able to stream through your computer while playing your console games. So that opens up the door to be able to broadcast your Switch games. However, obviously that does require you to have a computer in order to do this. Then you have to decide whether you're going to be a hobby streamer or if you're going to try and turn this into a career. The hobby streamer will likely stream a couple times a week for a few hours, and they're not really going to have a set schedule, which is ultimately going to make it very difficult for them to get viewers or grow their channel. The professional streamer, on the other hand, is going to have a dedicated schedule for several hours per day while keeping consistent with that schedule, as well as making additional content on other platforms and putting a ton of effort and work into their live streams. Everyone has a different reason for why they want to stream, so there's not going to be one correct version of streaming, so you can feel free to mix and match in order to achieve what you want to do with streaming. Now, there's two things that are really going to help you out learning how to stream. The first thing is going over to my YouTube channel, where I have everything categorized in nice cohesive playlists, such as learning how to stream on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, learning how to grow your stream, all the streaming gear you need, OBS Studio, literally everything your little heart could ask for when it comes to streaming is nicely and categorized on this YouTube channel. And the second thing is going over to my new website, cpausmusic.com, where I have my free streamers cheat sheet you can download, as well as checking out my ultimate guide to starting a Twitch channel, where I hold your hand step by step, teaching you everything that you need to know in order to start streaming on Twitch. Because after streaming on Twitch for over 6 years, I know how much of a pain in the butt it is when you're first getting started. So start watching whatever playlist applies to you, but I'll leave this one right here to get you started. But my name's Cody, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, so
At Fiverr, we
appreciate
offer
you,
3D
Cody.
rendering services.
That's my
But
guy.
you probably already...
All right, so remember our topic for today is getting started. We just want to get started with whatever it is we're trying to do. Now, let's look at another one of these real quick. Let's look at graphic design.
Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Dina. I'm a graphic designer, digital artist, and content creator, and I make videos about art, design, and my life as a creative. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, consider subscribing, because that's pretty much all I post about. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through my 5-step process on how to become a graphic designer in 2021. In this day and age, it's a lot easier and more accessible now more than ever, so if you're serious about becoming a graphic designer, I'm going to walk you through those steps now. So step number 1 is to have a plan of action. The term graphic designer overall is a pretty broad term. There's many different types of graphic designers, and deciding which one you want to learn more about could save you lots of time and speed up your progress if you know which design field you want to specialize in. So essentially, if you know what type of designer you want to be, you'd be working backwards in terms of, you know, you want to be this type of designer. So you're going to break it down into more actionable steps on, okay, what are the specific things I need to learn in order to become this type of designer that specializes in this specific thing. To give you a few examples, you could specialize in things like branding, print/packaging/production, UI UX design, logo design, digital art, and the list goes on and on. Now, you still might not know what design field you want to pursue, and that's perfectly okay, and no one's expecting you to have it all figured out, especially in the beginning. I didn't have it all figured out myself when I started either. This gives you a chance to kind of learn everything on a more broad spectrum, so that naturally over time you'll learn which ones you gravitate more towards or want to learn more about. So once you've established what type of designer you want to be or don't want to be, step number 2 is to become a sponge. You want to absorb and soak in all the information that you're learning and studying. There's really 2 main ways that you can go about learning, which is 1, you either get a formal design education at a university, or 2, you go the self-taught, self-learning route where you learn and teach yourself through online courses, books, blogs, and videos. The main factor to consider for most people is the cost. So ask yourself, are you able to afford a formal education at a university and pay out of pocket? Or are you willing to take out school loans, be in debt for a little bit, and then once you graduate, eventually pay it all back for the years to come? Or would you rather take the quote-unquote tougher route that's more affordable, but more difficult in terms of having more self-discipline to be resourceful, to teach and learn things by yourself. In my case, although I did graduate with a design degree, I'm still learning and teaching myself new things all the time, even after college. In the design field, if you want to succeed and continue advancing your career, you have to take on the mentality of becoming a student for life and be open to learning new things all the time. I think learning shouldn't stop once you're done with school, especially in the design field. And as Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn. So let's see the pros and cons to learning at a university versus learning by yourself. Pros for learning design at a university: in-person learning. So there's hands-on experience, and this is especially useful if you are a visual learner. You have access to more resources and opportunities as a college student. You're surrounded by like-minded people, and so you have a wider network of people to connect with. And everything is essentially planned out for you, so you take out the guesswork and you really just have to follow and execute based on what your course instructor gives you. The cons to studying design at a university is, well, one, it's more expensive, especially considering it's a field of study where a degree is not necessarily required in order to succeed or land a job, but for some jobs, a degree is required or at least highly desired. Another con is the time that it takes to get your degree. On average, college is about 4 years long before you get your degree, and so if time is a very valuable thing for you and you want to cut it down in half, then the self-teaching route would probably be better suited for you. And you know what they say, time is money. Now let's look at some pros and cons to self-learning. You can go
Is that a commercial, girl? You got that commercial in the middle of that, girl.
You can go at your own pace, and so it's more flexible. You can learn what you want when you want. You don't get any
what's up,
grades,
Zanita67?
so there's no pressure
Appreciate you for
about
coming
worrying
in.
about your GPA or strict deadlines
catch
to
you
turn
up.
in your work by. It's much cheaper.
So what we're talking about right now on Monday planning and execution is getting started. So I'm giving us some examples of things that we could get started on. For example, I did, if you want to be a broadcaster or a streamer, I did how to get started with streaming. Now I'm doing how to get started becoming a graphic designer, and I'm gonna do one more of these small ones, and then we're gonna go into the more broader topic of getting started.
that you get when you learn on your own is much lower and will save you thousands of dollars compared to university costs, which will depend on where you live / what university you're wanting to go to. So for that, I would research the school that you're looking into in order to factor in all the costs. Another thing is that it forces you to become more self-disciplined and resourceful as a person. So some cons is that because no one's telling you what to do, it can be really easy to slack off or lose motivation. Your why or reason for wanting to be a designer has to be strong enough to get yourself to take the initiative to self-learn. And it can be lonely, which is discouraging because you don't have classmates or peers to relate to or talk to in the way you would at a university. Everyone's situation and life circumstances are different, so I would use your best judgment to see what type of learning style you work best in, your financial situation, and ask yourself, what are you willing to put yourself through? Regardless of which way you want to start learning, you want to start familiarizing yourself with things like, what are the fundamentals of design? Start looking at other people's design work and start studying it, and familiarize yourself with the design programs, especially the Adobe Creative Cloud like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe InDesign, to name a few. You can start learning these at any time. There's just so many free resources out there online. You know, there's courses, there's YouTube videos, there's books, vlogs, so many things and areas that you can learn from. Step number 3 is to take what you learn and execute on designing in order to gain the experience. You want to create as much as you can in order to speed up your learning process. Like doing anything new or being a beginner in anything, it will most likely suck and it can be discouraging, but the key is to never quit. So essentially, you want to keep the momentum going of just creating even if it sucks. Over time, you'll naturally get better as you start experimenting, learning, taking risks, making mistakes, growing, breaking some rules, and overall just having fun with designing. The most important thing in this step is that you're learning and you're growing. To practice any art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow. So do it. Whether you're creating design projects for your school assignments, for clients, or for your own portfolio, you're going to need assets like fonts, mockups, photos, and other graphic elements in order to help bring those design projects to life. Which brings me to today's video sponsor, Envato Elements. Envato Elements is the world's leading creative marketplace that has millions of creative assets for you to choose from with unlimited downloads, all at one low cost starting from $16.50 a month. Anything from graphic templates, stock photos, videos, music tracks, and much more, they've got it all. So be sure to sign up with Envato Elements using my link in the description to get access to millions of creative assets for your next design project today. Step number 4 is to immerse yourself in the design community as much as you can. You want to go out of your way to surround yourself with like-minded people and creatives through things like social media or local events, clubs. There's Facebook groups, online forums. Find a mentor if you can and collaborate with other creatives. There's a quote that goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. I think that being genuine and going out of your way to meet new people in your desired field could open many doors for you. You never know who could connect you to certain opportunities that could really boost your design career down the line. So don't be opposed to meeting new people or going to events or just being uncomfortable for a little bit. Otherwise, you're closing that door of potential opportunities coming into your life. Remember, it's not always about what you know, but who you know as well. You want to keep that momentum going of learning and studying, creating, and surrounding yourself in the design community. The 5th and final step is to put together a design portfolio of your best works if you want to get hired for design jobs. At this point, you should have a good amount of projects to show. I would recommend either having a website or a digital PDF portfolio. The number of projects that you have in your portfolio should be no less than 5 and no more than 12. So I feel like anywhere from 5 to 12 is a pretty sweet spot. You want to focus on quality and not quantity, and making sure that your projects have depth. I actually made a video recently where I shared tips and showed my senior graphic design portfolio, which I will either link on the screen or in the video description. And that concludes today's video. I hope that I was able to provide some guidance or some insights on how to become a graphic designer. I want to reiterate that everyone's situation is different, and so these steps are on a more generalized spectrum. So use your best judgment there. But be sure to subscribe for more, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or concerns. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
All right. Now, we're going to do one more. All right.
You've got an empty calendar. What the heck are you gonna do about it? My friend, here's the raw, real, honest truth. Are you ready for this? If you have an empty calendar, it's kind of your fault. Now, I'm gonna give you some real brass tacks feedback to help you shift from an empty calendar to booking yourself solid. But you gotta do me a favor. You gotta implement what I'm getting ready to teach you. I need you to understand something really, really powerful. Social media is a blessing, but it's also a curse. Because you're sitting at home watching other people get the stages that belong to you, watching other people get the conferences and events that belong to you, watching other people get the doors opening for their speaking career that technically belong to you. And I need you to get sick and tired of being sick and tired enough to get rid of your empty calendar and do this instead. Let's jump in. Dr. Del Toro, let's rock. First thing you want to do, if you have an empty calendar, you're looking at your dates, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at your wall calendar, you're like, man, I don't have any bookings. First thing you got to do is you need to start hosting your own live events, okay? You gotta start hosting your own live events. If you're waiting for people to book you, the smartest thing you do is book yourself, okay? While you're waiting for other people to decide whether or not you're their ideal candidate or decide whether or not they wanna work with you, host your own live events. When I got started speaking, one of the first things that I did when my calendar was empty was I said, listen, instead of me waiting for someone else to give me a chance, let me give myself a chance. Instead of waiting for a seat at the table, let me build my own table. Instead of waiting for someone else's stage, let me build my own stage. So I started hosting my own live events. And I did a monthly event at the same hotel every single Monday, and I called it Motivational Monday. Isn't it funny how 20 years later, I'm asked to come on the Today Show on a repeat basis on Motivational Monday to offer
That's
inspiration to the planet. But a lot of people don't understand that Motivational Monday started for Dr. Del Toro way back when he started his speaking career. My friend, you have the ability, if your calendar's empty, start to put your own events on your own calendar by hosting your own live event. Find a hotel that you like, that doesn't cost too much for yourself, book yourself a room and teach a workshop, teach a seminar, teach some concept that you know to a group of people who you know would be ideal clients and customers for said product or service that you have expert knowledge in. So guess what? That's one way to eradicate your empty calendar. And if you said, okay, I'm gonna do a monthly event every single month at this particular day on this particular time, guess what? Now your calendar's not empty. Now, what you can do is not only do that event, but then you can say, let me do something that's a virtual event.
Right.
You can do a couple of virtual events every single month from the comfort of your own home. Listen, COVID changed everything. And instead of focusing on what didn't work about COVID, why don't you focus on what did work? I did over 80 dates during the pandemic, each year during the pandemic. My colleagues and coworkers and people in the speaking industry who are crushing it like I am, we grew. Our businesses thrived during the pandemic because COVID opened up the door to virtual presentations more than it had been before. Does that make sense? So people have grown accustomed over the last 2.5, almost 3 years to learning from home, growing from home, professional development from home, personal development from home. Does that make sense? Attending major conferences from home. Does that make sense? Absolutely incredible. So my friend, in addition to hosting live events in your own city, in your own backyard, you can also host several virtual events, right? The same month. Like, what if you did 2 virtual events at home promoting the live event that you wanted to do in person? Does that make sense?
Right.
So now you've got 2 virtual events that people can attend, and then you got 1 live event that folks could attend. Now all of a sudden you go from an empty calendar to 3 or 4 dates on your calendar. And these virtual events could be webinars, they could be Zoom sessions, they could be pop-up masterclasses, they could be Instagram lives, they could be LinkedIn lives. You could do virtual events in so many different formats and ways, it's not even funny. You could do free ones, you could do paid ones, and these are adding engagements to your calendar while you're waiting for other clients to book you. So now you've got virtual events on your calendar, now you've got live events on your calendar. Let's go to the third way that you can get rid of your empty calendar. Let's say that you're in sales and you have an ideal client that you want to sell your products or services to. Does that make sense? What if you decided to host a lunch and learn in your city, right? Now, a lunch and learn could technically be considered a live event, which it is, but the reason why I listed it separately is because a lunch and learn is different from just public seminar, a public live event, in that a lunch and learn is really geared towards a very targeted, right, client. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So for example, if I wanted to, I could do a live event in my city around the title of my newest book, Shift into a Higher Gear. I could do it at a hotel and invite the public to come to this event. Does that make sense? But later on in the month, 2 weeks later, I could host a lunch and learn specifically for speakers, authors, and coaches, how I can help them scale 6- and 7-figure and 8-figure speaking businesses. Administrators of high schools, because I want to speak for high schools. Host a lunch and learn in your city, and then you invite principals and assistant principals and APs and counselors and guidance counselors and success coaches from high schools to come to this lunch and learn to learn a little bit more about who you are, what products and services you have to help them, and how you can take them to the next level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now you might have to invest in the room, you might have to invest in the food to actually pay for the lunch and learn, right? To let people come, because this is kind of like, if you want to be real honest, this is technically like it's like an audition. Does that make sense? It's like an audition, if you will. But what if you did that once a month? If you did that once a month, that's 12 lunch and learns that you hosted over the course of a year. Let's just say 20 people came to each one. 20 people come to a lunch and learn, that's 240 targeted prospects in the run of a year. You mean to tell me that your following year next year's calendar won't be 100 times more booked if you spend 1 year getting 240 potential clients from a well-executed lunch and learn? My friend, I'm trying to help you eradicate that empty calendar.
Empty
But I need
calendar.
your help. You gotta help me help you, as Jerry Maguire would say, right? Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. Listen, if you know that you're ready to get more clients, contacts, contracts, and cash, register for our upcoming 5-day challenge. It's called Monetize Your Message. MonetizeYourMessageChallenge.com. The link is in the bio. Tip number 4, and fire off in the comments. Give me your opinion on these. I'd really love to hear it. Speak for civic groups, community groups, and networking groups. That's number 4. Every city has Rotary clubs, chambers of commerce, right? Kiwanis clubs, Shriners, business networking groups, business networking international groups. Does that make sense? Facebook events, meetup.com. These are all civic groups, community groups, and networking groups that gather in your city all the time. Now, I'll be honest with you, a lot of these organizations aren't gonna pay you top dollar to come in and speak, right? But if you leverage strategic free speaking to get in the door of some of these networking groups and business groups and civic groups, guess what? A lot of these, you don't have a lot of competition. Does that make sense? You don't have to have the perfect website. You don't have to have a $15,000 promo video on your website, right? To get in some of these doors. So I really want to encourage you, speak for civic groups, speak for community groups and networking groups in your city, and fill up your calendar that way. And you might be saying, well, Dr. Del Toro, guess what? A lot of those, I've tried that before, and they wanted me to speak for free, and I'm ready to get out there and do my thing. Cool, awesome. It's much easier to get paid speaking when you're actually speaking than it is to get paid gigs when you're sitting at home on the couch watching other people out there speaking.
Exactly.
So if you're tired of scrolling, watching other people get gigs and stages, get your butt out there and do stuff, even if it's showcasing and strategic speaking to audition so people can see what you got going on. All right, number 5, go back to past clients. My friend, the top speakers on the planet are on what's called RRSB, Repeat Referral Spinoff Business. I teach this a lot in my 5-day challenge, Repeat Referral Spinoff Business, and I teach this to all my private coaching clients. The top speakers on the planet are on Repeat Referral Spinoff Business. In other words, our speaking begets more speaking. Our presenting begets more presenting. Right. Doors beget more doors. I can go to one conference and come back with clients and we come back with opportunities to speak at 4 more conferences, 8 more conferences. That's called Repeat Referral Spinoff Business. Does that make sense? I'm not going out there cold calling, trying to get a brand new client. It's being amazing in one environment, and it leads to other opportunities in other environments. Does that make sense? So go back to past clients and ask past clients if they will bring you back. That's another way to begin to start to fill your empty calendar problem, is to go back to people that you already wowed and say, hey, can I wow you all over again? All right? It's 10 times easier to get an existing client to pay you again than it is to go find a brand new client. So go back to some of those past clients and ask them if you can do business with them again. Does this make sense? Final tip. This is bonus. It's going to put money in your pocket. I told you if you waited till the end of the video, you would get it. Prospect better just means going online, going to Google, and type into Google your city, your subject matter, and type in conferences and see what kind of opportunities are coming right to your city. My friend, it doesn't make sense for you to have an empty calendar. If there's events and conferences that are coming to your city, you can find out which ones are a good fit for you and your brand, a good fit for you and your message, a good fit for you and your audience, and they're coming to your city anyway. Figure out if they've picked all their keynote speakers, figure out if they've picked all their breakout session speakers, and submit yourself to speak for these conferences. And by doing so, my friend, you will turn an empty calendar into a calendar that you've booked yourself solid. I hope that you got massive value out of this video, and I know that you're done sitting back at home waiting for doors to just fall into your lap, waiting for money to just fall into your lap, and waiting for speaking engagements to just fall into your lap. They say if you build it, they will come. That's not true. You got to go out there and get what you want. Does that make sense? Les Brown said, life is a fight for territory. And the moment that you stop fighting for the thing that you want, more gigs, the thing that you don't want, staying at home, sitting on your butt, watching videos, come on somebody, is going to automatically take over. There are people that have stages that belong to you.
All right. As I continue this 3-on-3. So all of that stuff he just said, nice. My bad. On pausing for a second. All of that stuff that he said is very, 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 very beneficial to all of us who are trying to get out here and actually get started with what it is we want to do. Because think about this. You may have some knowledge on something that somebody else don't have some knowledge on, and you can go and talk to people about it and actually be pretty okay at it and make money, or just get some enjoyment out of talking to people. That's what he was talking about. I'm talking about just getting started on anything that it is that you want to do. All right, so put it up. I'm gonna get us another video pulled up here in a second. Let me just get that background music. I must ain't got no perimeter defense. So I took my journey into music and streaming and all of that stuff a long time ago, and now you see me here still listening to music and streaming. Now, the first video that I played was about how to get started with streaming or broadcasting your games and being a gamer. The second one is just speaking, like being a public speaker, if that is something that you do, or a keynote speaker, if that is something that you do. Now, this last one is just getting started in general, or whatever it is that you're trying to do in life. All right, let's check it out. Let's see if he hit that. Good shot.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos, wondering why you can't find the motivation to do the things you need.
Things happen. Sometimes life will force you to start over from scratch. Instead of freaking out, you can view the experience as something that will help you become the person you're destined to be. It's another chance for you to be happy. This video will go over 7 things to help you start over again in life and make the process easier. 1. Realize people won't care as much as you think. One of the biggest reasons why some people are afraid of starting over to live a better life is because of other people's opinions. When you start over in life, you will be leaving your comfort zone. You might worry about what your friends and family think about you starting over. The truth is that most people don't care that much about you. Most people will be thinking about themselves and their own shortcomings instead of judging you. If you can stop worrying about what other people think, starting over again will feel a lot easier. 2. Accept the past and let go of it. It's hard to start over again if you are fixated on the past. Whatever happened back then happened already. You can't change what happened in the past, and you should focus on the future instead. You need to make the decision to let go, since things don't happen on their own. Acceptance isn't as hard as you think, since it means that you acknowledge it has happened and you're ready to move on from it. Focus your energy on creating your dream life instead of worrying about the past, and starting over again will feel better. 3. Start with the end goal in mind. When you're starting over, you need to know what to change and what kind of new life you want to create. Without the end goal in mind, you will be lost. Think of what you want in your new life, and find out which parts you need to change in your old life to get where you want. Maybe you're starting over and switching careers, so you need to learn the skills needed to make the switch. With the end goal in mind, you can have a plan to get there. 4. Detach yourself from the outcome. This point might not make sense, especially since the previous tip was to start with the end goal in mind, but keep watching. Sometimes we can't get what we want. When you focus only on trying to succeed, it won't be sustainable and it doesn't work at the highest level. If you only focus on the result, you will get lost on the way and lose sight of the underlying mission. Take Gary Vaynerchuk for example. One of his goals is to buy the New York Jets. He doesn't care much about the outcome, but he enjoys the journey so much and it makes him happy. Learn to let go of your ideas on what is supposed to happen, because things don't always go your way. Focusing on the journey instead of the outcome will make you happier and help make starting over again easier. 5. Let go of your limiting beliefs and excuses. Your limiting beliefs will stop you from taking the action you need. To get rid of your limitations, you have to take a step back and see what they are. Limitations are things that keep you trapped in a loop. They define the quality of your life. Of course, some limiting beliefs are true, and they do have a positive impact on your life. For example, a 30-year-old man who hasn't played basketball before will have a belief that he won't get into the NBA. This is true, and the belief tells him that he shouldn't spend his time trying to get good at basketball, unless it's a hobby he enjoys. However, most of our limiting beliefs are false, and you should ask yourself, where did it come from, and if it is true. After that, you can replace that belief with something not limiting. If you want to start over and improve your life, you have to get rid of those limiting beliefs. 6. Trust your intuition. When you start over, there's so many things you can do. Maybe you should follow your passion, or maybe you should do something safe and secure like what a lot of people in society do. Instead of doing what the voices around you say, you need to trust your gut. Do what you want to do to create the life you want. Trust yourself, because you know more than you think you do. 7. Prepare for failure. When you're starting over and creating a new life, there will be times where you will fail. You might want to revert to your old life, since your new plan isn't working, but you want to avoid that. You want to make a plan for failure so you don't revert back to your old life. Everyone will have different ways to deal with this, but I recommend practicing gratitude. If you can be more grateful for your new life and new opportunity, you will be less likely to revert back. Starting over in life can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Pick a few of the tips mentioned above and follow them. Starting over is a great opportunity to be someone better, even if it doesn't feel that way in the moment. Did you ever have to start over in life? Leave a comment below and check out the video shown on the end screen if you are interested in more content.
Do you like having a P.O. box but are tired of wasting time and money driving to the post office? At iPostal One, we can help. With iPostal One, you can get a real physical street mailing address that's better than a P.O. box for as little as $9.99 a month. Choose an address from thousands in our network. We receive your mail and packages from any carrier, and you can view and manage them through our app or online. This allows you to check your
Alright. Let's get a TED Talk.
Last week, I decided to leave my job. It happened rather unexpectedly, to be honest, and late at night. And at the time, my wife wasn't home, and so when she did get home, she came through the door and she said, "How was your day?" And I said, "I left my job." And she said, "Really?" And I have to explain the situation because there's two things you need to know. One, my wife is extremely gullible. And over the years, I may have taken advantage of that for my own personal amusement here and there. And two, I was smiling the entire time I said it. So I don't think that she believed a word of what I was saying. So for about 3 minutes, it went like this. Really? Yes. Really? Yes. Really? Yes. Until it finally sunk in that I wasn't kidding. The next day, I was having lunch with a friend. I hadn't seen him in a long time. And we were kind of catching up, and so I told him the story. But I added, this morning when I woke up, I thought I would have regrets. I made the decision almost instantaneously. But I didn't. I felt great. Never felt this good in my life. Now, to be honest, this isn't the first time that this has happened. Over the last 20 years, the time which I've been working, I've started over a few times. I've been a plumber and a carpenter. I've been a bike mechanic and a salesperson. I've been a researcher and an editor. I've been an investigator. I've been a trial attorney. I've done crisis management. I have planned logistics for events like this, although not as well. I have been a diplomat for my country. And so, during that time, I've also moved a few times. In fact, I've lived in 8 US states, touching all 4 borders, and a couple in the middle. And I've seen almost every single one of them, except Alaska, unfortunately. In the last decade alone, I've moved 3 times to 3 different continents, and I've learned 3 different languages just so that I could do that. It hasn't been as crazy as it sounds. There's always been a reason why, and that's, for lack of a better explanation, that I'm really flawed. I have lots of things that I need to get better at. And so when I do get presented with an opportunity to try something I haven't done before or correct something I've done wrong, I do my best to take on that challenge. So, for years, I've been moving around, fixing all my flaws. I was a terrible student, so I moved from my hometown, where there's a Big Ten university and class sizes of 200, to a small little town in Iowa, so that I would be under the watchful gaze of only 10 people in a class and forced to do my work. I was still a terrible student, but I learned a lot more than I would have otherwise. From there, I would go on to work 4 or 5 jobs vicariously, hustling and getting by, until I realized I needed a sense of purpose in my life. I didn't know what to do, so I went to law school. And there, I learned to seek out people to serve. And for a few years, I was a public defender, working in Louisiana, California, Wisconsin, and eventually in Boston, Massachusetts. I settled down for what had to be the longest time we'd been anywhere in a long time, 18 whole months.
If I can't make them stay lit till I'm done, stay here, stay straight, no we feel. All right, there we go.
I loved my work as a public defender, and I really learned very quickly that doing something that was more important than myself was a true part of who I was. But when the State Department came and offered me a job, I knew I would have to accept. Not only was I a bad student, I was a terrible language student. I also had never been abroad, not meaningfully. I'd traveled to different places and I'd been to seen different things, but I'd never lived abroad. I'd never immersed myself in a foreign culture. And so I knew that I would take the job, and we did. We moved to Washington, D.C. From Washington, D.C., we would move to Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic, later to Ethiopia, and then on to Austria. To explain how I've taken on these challenges and learned things through work and reinventing myself, it's probably best if I tell you a few short stories. I thought I loved service. I thought I was a service-oriented person, but I didn't really realize the extent of that until October of 2010. At the time, my wife and my daughter and I were living in Ethiopia, and I was sick. I was very sick. In fact, I'd been sick for so long that my wife eventually forced me to go to the doctor and get a second opinion. And I did, and I got the blood test. And they said, we'll call you tomorrow, which was a lie, because I hadn't made it back to the car in the parking lot before they called me and told me that I would have to fly out of Ethiopia and seek medical treatment someplace else. 12 hours later, I was on a plane to Pretoria. In that 12-hour period, I did everything I was supposed to do. I called my parents, I told them what was going on. I played with my little daughter, Ella, as much as I could. And I told my wife everything was going to be fine. 12-hour period, I did everything I was supposed to do. I called my parents, I told them what was going on. I played with my little daughter, Ella, as much as I could. And I told my wife everything was going to be fine. And for her part,
her name is Ella.
She put on a good show and agreed. But once I got to that seat on that airplane and that seat were the worst moment of my life. I sat down, put on my belt, strapped in, and there I was. It wasn't a nice, new, shiny airplane. It was one of these old airplanes with the carpeting that came halfway up the wall, the thick cushions that were musty and slightly greasy, with the hair oil of all the people that had sat in that seat before me. It was horrible. I couldn't move. And when I couldn't move, I couldn't do the robotic things that had kept me going. And so I started to think. Why am I going to Pretoria? Why not London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna? Well, I said, oh, that's easy. Those flights leave 5 to 10 hours later in the day in Ethiopia. And then I realized that 5 to 10 hours represented the biggest difference between whether I was probably going to live or probably going to die. Then I started to think about my family, my wife, my daughter. Would I ever see them again? My wife was 6 months pregnant. Would I ever meet my unborn child? Would I ever know whether she was a boy or a girl? And then I completely broke down. The stewardess woke me up by shaking me. I had arrived in Pretoria, and I was looking around, and of course, when they shake you and wake you up, they say, "Are you okay?" And robotically I said, "Sure, I'm fine," which is a complete lie. And I looked around the airplane, and I was the only one there. Everyone else had gotten up and gotten off. But the second I undid that belt and stood up out of that chair, I went back about doing all those robotic things that were getting me by. I would have, in the end, a 40 degrees Celsius fever for 17 straight days, with medication to control it. My liver had failed, which had caused my kidneys to fail, which had caused me severe dehydration, so severe that the dehydration was actually the problem and not the multiple organ failure. In addition, a few opportunistic infections had planted themselves, one of them deep in my lungs. The first thing they did at the hospital was put me on an IV drip, and I was on that drip for 6 days with no other treatment. 100 milliliters an hour. It was the slowest IV drip in history. 10 hours for one bag. Drip, 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 drip. I got so frustrated and angry that I actually grabbed a doctor at one point and I said, "What's the problem? If I'm so dehydrated, just turn up the volume. Get this thing moving. Let's do 500 milliliters an hour. Let's do 1,000. And he grabbed my hand and he pushed me back down to the bed. And he dropped the Afrikaans that he had been using. And he said quietly in English, "I'm afraid if I do that, your heart might explode." I would spend 2 weeks in that hospital and a week in South Africa recovering. It would be 3 months before I got a diagnosis. And another month after that, before my liver would be healthy enough to process the cheap and easy drugs that it took to kill the typhus that had infected me. Now, remember, up till this point, I had quit a dozen jobs, at least, right? And none of those had ever tried to kill me. But I didn't quit. And it was through this experience that I realized that I actually believed that representing my country and the work that I was doing was worth dying for. So, how do we make these decisions to start over? For me, it's about challenging myself and learning more about who I am.
I'm encouraged by this story.
When I first joined Honeybook, I was roughly making $1,500 a month. Fast forward to today, my marketing agency is...
Over years, I've developed a hierarchy of what I'm willing to do and what I'm not. Moving, easy. I'll move anywhere for a job. Rank, title, influence, these things also mean very little to me. Purpose, service, that's extremely important, as you might imagine. But I draw the line at family. The one consistent thing in my life for the last 2 decades has been my wife. She was there with me in high school. When I was a punk kid, she was too. She made me care about education when all I wanted to do was coast. She supported me as a public defender, even though I didn't make any money, and she didn't always support the outcomes of what I did. She was there in Ethiopia and for every other move. She took me to that doctor, and more importantly, she kept it together long enough to get me on that plane. So, a week ago, when I was presented with this problem at work, it was my own fault. I had made a mistake. I had taken a gamble. I thought I had it under control. And the consequences weren't that bad. I was given the option, move, leave your wife, because my wife has a job that she cannot leave, for just a year, or leave. And I left, because that's the deal. It's not written down, it's not said, it's experienced together in life. Change, no matter what anybody tells you, is never easy. No matter how many times you move, no matter how many times you start a new job, it sucks. Learning a new culture, learning a new language, fitting in, making friends, trusting people, being trusted, learning new skills, starting over is hard. And it doesn't get any better no matter how many times you do it. What does get better is the decision to start over. Deciding, making that choice, and moving on and being comfortable with it.
Hey, what's
for
good,
me,
Brother Reed?
Has been a
Brother
product
Reed,
of all those years of testing the limits and knowing what I'm willing to do and what I'm not.
Just because you joined up, if you stay in here long enough.
Thank you.
So what we're talking about today is getting started. What's something in your life that you're trying to get started? Whether it be starting to pray, whether it be starting a business, whether it be starting singing. What is something that you thinking about getting started? Getting started with faith. Let's see. What you got? Let's see.
Hot take. I like an app that's easy to use.
Dude, same.
Well, that's why I love FanDuel. It's so easy you can place a bet in seconds. They'll even give you a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV just for placing a $5 bet.
FanDuel over everything. If I have 100.
If you've been a Christian for any length of time, I'm sure you found yourself feeling like God is distant at times. Looking back on your life, there were probably times when you felt like God was close and that you were confident in what you believed. Maybe you heard an amazing message from a pastor a while ago, or you returned from a camp feeling refreshed or had a good streak of doing your devotions. But now it feels dry. And with this dryness comes a level of guilt, and you think to yourself, what's wrong with me? Why does God feel far? Or what do I do? So in today's video, we're going to tackle this question the best we can. How do I get right with God? And this video will be focused on giving 4 helpful tips to struggling Christians trying to find God in their hardships. Tip number 1, go to the cross. While this video covers 4 tips that can help you get right with God, you must understand this monumental truth. You yourself cannot get right with God. Many
Brother
people
Reed,
fall prey to this lie.
Oh yeah,
I
I
need
guess
to
if he
fix up my
acting
life
retarded.
so I can
I'm
get
glad
right
you
with
came
God.
right back.
Let me tell you this. Getting right with God doesn't mean praying and reading your Bible every day. Getting right with God doesn't mean to have consistent church attendance or to tithe everything you get. Now let me elaborate. Remember, God is a holy God and perfect and just beyond measure. So while being good right now may be nice, it doesn't erase our past failures, nor does it account for all our future mess-ups. We lie, we're selfish, and probably have a past with holding on to sexual immorality or stepping on others to get ahead, or we held on to feelings of bitterness and resentment. We are sinners, and Romans 6:23 tells us that the penalty of our sin is death. The reason why Jesus died on the cross was to pay for our own penalty. He died in our place. And when we understand and believe that Jesus died for our sins, we now can have a close relationship with a perfect and holy God. Romans 10:9 reads that if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Saved from what? Saved from hell and eternal separation from God. So application, when you feel like you need to get right with God, remember that you don't get right from doing a bunch of good things. You're right with God by acknowledging that God loves you so much that he sent Jesus to die in your place. Reading, praying, and going to church should not stem from this necessity of trying to be good or get right. It should come from a heart of gratitude and love for God. We read and pray so that we can learn more about the God who loves us so dearly. Focus on your relationship with God, not on all the rules that you have to follow. So now that you understand that you can't get right with God and that God made everything right between you and him through Jesus, it's time to continue our list of helpful tips. Tip number 2, feelings aren't reliable, God's word is. One of the first things you need to understand is that how you feel can be different from what is true. Looking at John 14:16, Jesus is speaking to his disciples before he goes to the cross, and he tells them, "And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate who will never leave you. He is the Holy Spirit who leads into all truth. The world cannot receive him because it isn't looking for him and doesn't recognize him, but you know him because he lives with you now and later will be in you. No, I will not abandon you as orphans. I will come to you." All this to say, you may feel like God is distant, but if you're a Christian, God the Holy Spirit dwells in you and is close to you regardless of how you may feel. Also, in Romans 8:38-39, it tells us that nothing can separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. You see, sometimes our feelings can be misleading. Sometimes we feel like God is far, or that he doesn't love us the way he did before, when the reality is that God is close and that nothing can separate us from his love. Application. What do? Make it a point to read God's word regularly so that you can keep your feelings in check with what is true. Tip number 3, input equals output. Paul tells us in Galatians chapter 6:7-8, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life." So imagine if your life were a field. If you wanted apples, you'd plant apple seeds. And if you wanted avocados, you'd plant avocado seeds. So now I want you to reflect. What are you planting in your life? Hours of mindless social media scrolling, video upon video of YouTube, binging movie after movie, show after show? Think about it. Sometimes it's not that God is far, it's that we see so much with our eyes and hear so much with our ears, nonsense, that anything God wants to tell us effectively gets tuned out. So application, think of your eyes and ears as gateways to your field. And what gets planted in your field will be what grows in your heart. Are you planting enough of God? Or is your mind being overrun with weeds and stones? You see, God's seeds are sincere prayer, reading and meditating on God's word, spending time with other Christians and serving others. And as a side note, if you're going to read and pray, make it a point to disconnect. Put away the phone, turn off the TV, and put yourself in a place where you can concentrate. Tip number 4, sin can destroy. This tip connects with tip number 3. Going back to your field, there may be something that's growing out of control. Look at James chapter 1, verses 14-15. "But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. Then, when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death."
60.
It's important to understand that sin has destructive consequences. Sometimes our selfish and sinful nature can destroy close relationships, our confidence, or our close relationship with God. Jesus in Luke chapter 9, verse 23 says, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." You see, when it comes to following God, we must understand that there's more to it than just going to church and hanging out with other Christians. Being a disciple of Christ requires a level of discipline that chooses to deny certain pleasures. When we indulge in our sinful desires and give into temptation, one of the things that dies is our intimacy with God. To follow God means to carry our cross daily, which means to make the decision every day to say no to sin, no matter how bad we may want it. So application, look to see if you're allowing a certain sin to grow in your life and then cut it out. If you need help cutting it out, verbally ask for help from someone that you trust. Maybe a pastor, teacher, mentor, family friend. Make sure that they have your best interest in mind and make sure they have a higher spiritual maturity than you do. Note that sometimes the all-consuming sin is an addiction, or maybe someone who's a bad influence, or something that causes your mind to go into a dark place. You need to take serious steps to cut this out of your life so that your walk with God can grow. Take great heed to what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 30. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. Okay, so we shared 4 tips on how to get right with God. Tip number 1, the most important tip, go to the cross. You can get right with God. You're made right based on what Jesus did for you. Tip number 2, feelings aren't reliable. God's word is. Tip number 3, input equals output. So be careful with what you plant. Tip number 4, sin can destroy and it can destroy your relationship with God. So as you continue to seek God, hold in your heart what James says in chapter 4, verse 8. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. In this verse lies a promise. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. God is
exactly. So I'm gonna put it on this background music real quick, so I can finish this game. I don't wanna lose the message while I'm trying to finish the game. So we just talking about getting started today on expansion pack. Planning and execution Monday, and it could be anything from starting a podcast to starting to pray. It could be you want to start playing basketball. Oh, good late. All of these things. How do you get there though? Just getting started. Well, I got a story to tell. I'm working with a couple people to help start some ideas that they have about podcasts and shows that they want to do. And so, hold on. So with me helping them, I want them to know, if any of them are listening, the first step to me helping you, good lay, is you meeting with me, us talking about it, us planning. All of those things are the first step to us doing whatever it is we're planning. Because we have the idea in our mind, as we meet or we start talking about it or we start planning it, it's already happening. It's just still in our mind, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get it to come out of our mind and go into work. So with that being said, I realized I can't talk and play this game, so let me get another video over here. How to get started with making beats. I was supposed to say music, but there we go. How to make a beat, 4 things you know. Okay.
Let me show you why I stopped paying for all my other sample libraries. This is Arcade by Output. This thing has sound.
Hey Johnny? Johnny.
Yeah?
You make beats, right?
Yeah, I've been making beats for a while.
Okay, can you show us how? I don't know how.
Right now?
Yeah.
Yo, I'm trying to make the set.
All right, let's start making beats. What's up? This is Johnny. I'm the camera guy, and I'm making a video about making beats. All you need is 4 things. In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly what they are and how to use them. The first thing you need to start making beats is a computer. Magic. So you probably already knew that any computer can handle pretty much anything to start making beats, but if you keep adding stuff like VSTs and plugins, the more juice it'll need. So when I started being interested in making beats, I would look at J Dilla, RZA, Premiere. They would all use like an MPC or a SP1200, but nowadays you could just do everything right in your computer.
Who's your favorite producer?
I like Kanye. It's just the old Kanye, not the new Kanye. I miss the old Kanye, not the MAGA Kanye. Moving on. The second thing you need is a DAW. DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. That's the software you need to start making beats. So all DAWs do pretty much the same thing. I started with Fruity Loops, migrated to Reason, then I used Logic. When I was broke, I used GarageBand, and now I found comfort in Ableton. But you could start with any DAW that you want and just choose the right one. For you. The third thing you need is headphones. Headphones. So I personally use headphones because I don't have studio monitors at my house, and it's way better than your computer, speakers, or earbuds. I highly, highly recommend that you get a good pair of headphones, okay? The fourth thing you need is samples. That's it. There's plenty of websites like Lander that offers free samples. They're royalty free, they sound great off the bat, and they help you spark creativity. And stick around, I'm gonna show you the easiest way to start making beats using samples. Yes, girl. Those are the 4 starting points. You obviously can add a MIDI controller, a drum pad, or a sound card, but you don't really need that right off the bat. So let's just dive in and start making beats with what we got. I like to start with a sample, so what I'm gonna do is go on Lander and start looking for a sound that I like. So I'm gonna try to make something more like a 90s boom bap type of beat. I'm gonna look for a hip hop sample or any sample that would kind of trigger my creativity. So I found a sample from the California Volume 3 pack from Cryptic Samples. Cool, that sounds really good. So the first thing I'm gonna do is load up Ableton. The next thing I'm gonna do is set my tempo. So I wanna do something more like a boom bap type beat. So I'm gonna set the tempo around 90 to 95 BPM. Let's set it up at 93 BPM. Whichever DAW that you start using, they all come with pre-built-in sampler. Ableton offers one that's called Simpler. You can find Simpler by clicking Instruments and then going over here and double-click Simpler. It's gonna load it up. I'm gonna drag and drop my sample and start chopping my beat. Simpler offers 3 modes. You have Classic, One Shot, and Slice. If you want to learn more about how to chop samples, click the link over here.
It's a video.
Oh, it's a video. Yeah, it's a video. All right, for this sample, I'm gonna use the Slice mode. It allows you to slice your sample by either transient, beat, region, or manual. Since I know that my sample is an 8-bar loop, I'm gonna select the division to be at every half beat. I'm also gonna make sure that I warp my sample so it matches the BPM of my track. If you don't have a MIDI controller, Ableton allows you to use your computer keyboard as your MIDI controller. Make sure that your option is selected over here where it says computer MIDI keyboard, so you don't have to buy one. So let's try it out. You see how it goes? Like you can use your keyboard as your MIDI controller. So I'm gonna start trying to find a good melody with this sample. I have a good idea of what I'm gonna do, so let's record it. I think I got it. Do I look pretty? I just figured out the melody, so I'm gonna make sure that every note that I just played plays on the beat. I'm gonna quantize the hell out of this. Is there a video about quantize, Anthony?
No, I mean, yes.
YouTube's gonna change, so it could be anywhere. So I got the melody, so I'm gonna add some drums. First thing I'm gonna do is load up a drum rack. on my second MIDI channel. So the drum rack allows you to load up samples to either play them live or program them on the piano roll. I'm gonna load up a kick, a snare, and a hi-hat. So let's load these bad boys up. All right, so I have a kick over here. Let's listen. So I'm gonna take this kick and drop it over here. Take this hi-hat, drop it over here, and a snare. Let's try some random beats. Or maybe you should do a reggaeton beat. Enough trying things around. Let's play my melody and make a drum. I'm gonna program these drums right now. All right, so let's add a kick, a snare, and then hi-hats at every beat. Keeping it simple. Oh, that's not right. Whoopsies. You would think that I would be good at this. Apparently not. I think that sounds good.
Make me play the Charlotte Hornet.
All right, I think we got the drums. Now on to the bass line. Slapping the bass. This is where the fun happens, guys. I'm gonna add the thickest bass line you'll ever see. So I'm gonna use Lethal. I'm gonna insert a MIDI track. Let's load up the bass that I use. It's called Killa Bass, because it's killer. It has like Michael Jackson, Thriller vibes. Let's get inspired. Let's find a nice thing that's gonna complement my melody. That's too mean. Too mean. I figured it out. Let's record it. Bass line done. We got the melody, the drum, the bass line. Now let's add the chorus. So I'm gonna add another melody to this with the original sample that I used. So I'm gonna duplicate this and then delete that. And then let's try something out. Listen to the final version now. These are the basic starting points of how you start making beats. I made a melody, I found my drums, and I added a bass line. And what I'm gonna do is clean this up a little bit, maybe add some effects. But if you wanna learn more about how to make beats, if you wanna see me more on more videos, just comment in the comments down below. And then the rest is all up to you, all in your hands. And you could just do whatever you want. Even the cameraman can start making beats right now. Even Anthony has been making beats forever. Even my child is making beats. Everybody can make beats. I'm not gonna judge you. If you make crappy beats, if you make great beats, if you make beats, Battlestar Galactica.
At Full Sail, we take a unique approach to teaching the art of filmmaking. Our students work on projects designed around the industry. They're planning and executing a production and handling post-production aspects like editing and sound design. We offer campus and online programs so students can create stunning films anywhere in the world. Our instructors are working professionals.
Let's see what this one get us.
Hey everyone, Cynics here, and if this is your first time watching one of my videos, then that's great because this video is specifically designed to be the first art video you ever watch. Whether you want to do drawing or painting or comics or whatever, I'm just going to give you a healthy mentality and philosophy that should really help start your journey. So weirdly enough, there actually won't be any art going on in this video. And you also might be wondering, why am I holding a guitar? Well, the music field is actually far more progressive than the visual arts in how it introduces beginners to its craft. So I'll be using the guitar and my lifelong experiences with it to help offer new insights on how we learn. The first topic we need to talk about is passion. Passion is the force that drives us to want to do a thing. If you click this video, you probably have some level of passion about making cool drawings or telling a visual story or whatever it might be. But passion is a resource. It can be gained and it can be lost. If you want to reach your goals, you need to respect it as a resource and start identifying the things that add to it and the things that take away from it. I view it like fuel in a gas tank. If I want to get from here to there, the only way to do it is by making sure that I don't run out of fuel. So start identifying the things that might make you more passionate about your goals and the things that maybe make you less passionate. Just be aware, these things can change over time. With that all being said, let's move around a bit. There's always a common meme among art communities. In order to do this, you need to first do this. Which, to be fair, is true, but that doesn't sum up the whole journey, because I would add that in order to do this, you also need to do this first. It sounds silly, I know, but the fact is, every single amazing artist you admire started their journey with bad fan art and stuff like this. Now, many people look back and make the mistake of assuming that this was just a wasted period of time where the artist was building bad habits. But they were also maintaining something far more important than any of that: passion. Alright, it's time to bring up the guitar. If a child were to express an interest in learning guitar, a teacher would have two real options. They can take the academic approach and start introducing the kid to scales and music theory. There you go, kid. Practice this until you master it, and then we'll move on to the next theory. Many reasonable children will simply run out of passion and probably just give up on this interest. Most smart music teachers would instead try to find a song that the child likes and start teaching them that. The passion will not only maintain itself, but usually even start to go up. Eventually, when your fuel tank of passion is strong enough to maintain itself, then you can start sprinkling in scales and music theory. But it drives me absolutely crazy to see children be pushed into joyless creative experiences right at the start of their journey. This, of course, applies to people of all ages. The fastest way to really get anywhere at the start of a creative journey is to imitate the stuff you like. My early sketchbooks when I was 19 are filled with Jonan Vasquez fan art and anime stuff, and I would have never made it any further in art if I would have done things differently. You need to find fun in what you're doing, especially at the start. Just copying cool art you see is a wonderful way to start internalizing basic information and actually gaining nice mileage on your journey. It doesn't matter what it is, and to some extent it really doesn't matter if it builds bad habits. Many guitar players never even learn music theory. They just internalize so many songs that it starts to feel almost intuitive to play certain chords in certain orders when they first try to make their own song. Eventually, like I said, the passion does become overwhelming enough that even doing fundamentals is perfectly acceptable and even enjoyable. But we need to collectively remember that it is all pointless if you don't have the passion to back it up. If passion wasn't a factor, then sure, you could craft a logical, fundamental breakdown of the steps required to become great at art. But why would anyone even bother at that point? It is for this reason that I will tell you the fastest and most reliable way to get good at art is to simply imitate and copy cool stuff, which seems like a no-brainer, but for some reason people have a weird aversion to doing copies of other people's art, as it feels like dirty somehow or wrong. Just make sure to not try to pass it off as your own. Once again, it's hard to even imagine the music world being as prickly as the art world when it comes to copying stuff to get better. Yo, that's dope. Did you write that? Oh no, it's just a cover. I just like this song. What? What the hell, man? That's gross. Play your own songs. Oh, sorry. Anyway, while I have this guitar out, let's make some other comparisons. Chords are an interesting parallel. Many songs have little riffs and solos and flourishes, but as a beginner, even just playing the basic chords and rhythms are enough to establish the overall song and still be quite fun. In almost every way, this is why I strongly emphasize the importance of distilling paintings down into the simplest, biggest shapes when learning to paint. My whole beginner painting video was just about this concept, and it really ties in well with how people learn instruments. There's no point in getting obsessed with the complexity of every single note when you're learning. Just focus on the big chords. That's what helps you out. So avoid getting hung up on all the small details when you first learn to do studies. If you can make the big stuff work, then you'll be in a much better spot.
That's beautiful. You gotta play that. Wow.
Okay, I have one last useful comparison to point out. Have you ever tried singing while playing an instrument? And don't worry, don't stop the video. I promise you I'm not going to start singing. But I used to think that this was simply a multitasking skill that some people had and some people didn't. No matter how hard I tried, I found it impossible to do two different things at once. I even used an amazing word to justify my inability. I told myself that I didn't have that talent. Yes, that word, talent. It's a great defensive word. Now, years after giving up and not really bothering to try, I decided to take some time and really see if it was impossible or not. I picked a very simple chord rhythm and just kept trying to nail it down with my hands while vocalizing. Eventually, I actually managed to get my brain to detach the two from each other. The weird thing is, once I had done it once, it seemed to be easy to do it with any chords. I didn't have to brute force my brain into doing it with every song. I could just kind of do it naturally once I crossed that threshold. So something that seemed impossible now felt like it didn't even require much of a second thought. That experience really helped solidify a certain view in my mind. What I thought was talent was really just the ability to trust your own intuition. To some degree, it could also be called inherent confidence. Some people develop talent very early on in life simply because of strong positive reinforcement and healthy upbringings. But some of us don't. Just keep in mind, confidence and trust can be improved upon later in life. I know some people will fight me heavily on this, and that's fine. I do know that there are plenty of genetic factors that might make some people more inclined to do better at certain things. But I will maintain my opinion that in the creative field, I think confidence plays a much bigger part than genetics. Alright, I think that's about everything, so thank you all so much for watching. This video was long overdue, but I hope you enjoyed it. Please keep it in mind when you have like kids of your own, or if you don't already, it's good for kids. And a special thank you to all my Patreon supporters, because they're keeping everything alive. So thank you everyone, and see ya next time. Serious Japanese singing time.
actually like that. I shouldn't have hit the button. Let's look at one more.
Trump's Project 2025 would take Black America backwards. It would strip away our voting rights protections and bans abortion. Kamala Harris will stand up to Trump and his dangerous plans to control our lives because Trump is out for himself, while Kamala Harris is for the people.
How do you start making art? Let's talk about it. This, ironically, is a question that almost never came up in my 11 years of teaching middle school and high school art. Young people and students didn't seem to struggle with the concept of how you start something. And this is likely due to the fact that most of their life at that point is trying new things. Every year they walk into a new science class, a new literature class, a new history class, and they have to learn how to do new things. So trying something new is just not that intimidating or strange to them. Where this question comes frequently, though, is from adults who want to start drawing or painting or sculpting, and they feel so overwhelmed by the amount of options that there are, the different kinds of media, and also in the back of their minds, I think frequently, they're worried that they're getting too late of a start. So what is the first thing that you need to do if you want to start making art? Well, I think the wisest thing to do is to start simple and to pick just one thing. Don't try to simultaneously take on printmaking, painting, drawing, and sculpting. Pick a single thing. Even in that single thing, you can hone in. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're going to start with drawing, because so many people do. If we want to do other videos later on the other ones, we can do that. But let's start with drawing. Well, just pick up a pencil. Get yourself a cheap sketchbook that's maybe $5 to $10 and just start drawing. Now, when you open up that first page, it's likely going to be very intimidating because you're going to have expectations forming, which can lead to disappointment. You're going to open that first page and go, whatever I do here is going to set the tone for whatever I do moving forward. So maybe just start by writing on that first page. Just write on that first page, this is my first sketchbook. I am going to learn how to draw. Be careful, don't judge me. Sign current day me to future me, or something like that. Just do something to create a mark on that first page and cut through that blank canvas syndrome, the fear of that blank page. Just start with something. After that, frankly, I would just start drawing things that are around your space. Use your eyes. Don't look things up yet. Just use your eyes. Look around and try to replicate things that you see. If you're sitting at the kitchen counter, draw that pair of scissors. Draw a fork, a spoon, a bowl, all of these things. The basic objects that sit around in your daily life are going to translate into all kinds of forms that allow you to build robots and people and dragons and all kinds of things later on. But you have to start with the basics. From there, just kind of getting your feet wet in things, start moving into drawing spheres and cubes, basic shapes that again will make up everything as you move throughout life. At this point, you should probably only really be working with lines, though you could start bringing in some rudimentary shading. But the goal here is really not about progressing this skill, and I don't want to take this conversation in a direction that implies that if you want to learn how to draw, you need to be building all your skills. Most of us want that. But maybe you don't. Maybe your desire is just to get into it to have fun. Well then, just start drawing. Break the ice, start moving through things, draw those objects in your daily life, look up art from people that you enjoy their artwork, and start working on copying things. Over a really long period of time, you can work on something like developing your style, so you could lay the groundwork for what your style might be at some point, but don't worry about any of that stuff at the beginning. In fact, in the beginning, I would say just don't worry. As long as you are putting things on the page, as long as you are drawing in some capacity, some fashion, you're good. We can work on building skills later. We can work on building some good habits later. At the beginning, it's just about building one habit in particular, the habit of making art frequently. Well, if this is painting, it's going to be those same kind of things. If it's sculpture, I would get some clay and just start messing around with it. They have awesome Sculpey clays that can bake in your oven, just things to kind of get your feet wet with the medium and play with it. All in all, though, don't fear getting started. I know that there's anxiety and there's stress about diving into a new artistic medium, especially if you haven't done it before or haven't done it in a long time. The biggest thing I want you to take from this is just dive in at the beginning. And if you're wanting some more advice on how to proceed after that point, let me know in the comments below, and I'm sure we can put together some resources for you. If I can't do it, there's a lot of people on this platform who can help you out, and I can point you in those directions.
All right. Let's see this one. We ain't looked at this yet. Got 30 minutes left to go.
If you really want to be a CEO, want to be an entrepreneur, you should take the first step. Create the LLC. It doesn't really cost that much to create a company. Everyone's scared about like going out and just creating a company, right? Well, if you actually do it, that's like one step, because now you have a company name, now you have an identity, now you're like made one of the big.
Starting a business can sound like an impossible task. You might think that you don't have what it takes, you might think you're not very entrepreneurial, and you might know the stat that 9 out of 10 startups fail. Shit. But what I've learned over the years of building my own multi-million-dollar business and interviewing dozens of successful entrepreneurs is that starting a business is actually a step-by-step process. And if you follow those steps, then actually things can become a lot more manageable. Okay.
So it might be a case of copy-pasting C6.
Hey friends, welcome back to the channel and to another episode of Money Club, the ongoing series where we discuss the principles, strategies, and tools that can help us on our shared journey towards financial independence and building a life that we love. In this video, I want to introduce you to the step-by-step castle method of building a business, and this video is going to be aimed at beginners. So if you've been thinking of starting a business, but you maybe haven't started one yet, then I promise if you follow the first 2 steps of this method, you will create a working minimum viable product, hopefully in under 2 hours. Throughout this video, we're going to be designing a business completely from scratch, and I'm going to be going through the castle method on this template over here. And if you want this template, it is available completely for free alongside a Google Doc version if you don't like Notion. That'll be linked down below. We've got the difference between J-curve and non-J-curve businesses. We've got all of my highlights from this book oversubscribed and a bunch of other resources that'll help you, because this video is going to be ridiculously long, and so we're just going to pile all the other information straight into that template. Again, it's completely free. Just hit the link down below and you can download it if you like. So let's start with step 1 of the castle method, and that is conceptualize. And to illustrate this, I want to tell you a little bit about Cedric.
This strapping young lad must be Cedric, am I right?
Cedric is an 18-year-old who has just graduated from school, and he realizes that he wants the freedom, fun, and flexibility, and the money that building his own business can lend him. His family haven't had much money growing up, and he's seen the power of financial independence, and so he really wants to start his first business.
So one step is ideation. Ideation is coming up with at least 10 ideas, and then figuring out which one would be the best, or which 2 or 3 ideas would be the best. So that's an actual process called ideation. And most people jump from first idea to action rather than coming up with 9 other ideas and saying, well, why did I choose that one?
That's Daniel Priestley. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he's also a coach for CEOs and for business owners. And he's written a bunch of books that are all about starting and growing businesses. And Daniel's book, Oversubscribed, is my most highlighted book of all time. And the knowledge I got from this book has directly translated to over $2 million worth of sales for my own business. So step 1 is ideation. So what Cedric needs to do, and what you need to do if you're starting a business, is just generate lots and lots of ideas for what possible business you could start if you wanted to. And if you look inside our template, we've got some more instructions here that you can follow around brainstorming, researching the market, identifying the problem that you're solving, developing a unique value proposition, and ultimately refining your idea. And because Cedric is intelligent, he understands the power of artificial intelligence to help him come up with his business ideas and to refine his value proposition as well. Now at this point, you want to look through your list of business ideas, and you want to try and combine 2 different things. You want to combine what you think there might be a genuine market for with what you personally might be potentially interested in, or what you have personal expertise in. And this is an idea from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, and it's called the hedgehog concept. And it's basically this Venn diagram intersection between the things that the market wants, the thing that you could potentially be the best in the world at, and the thing that you personally enjoy. And if you can find something in the intersection of that Venn diagram, that's when you really have a business that could flourish. But within this hedgehog concept, especially if you're starting your first business, by far the most important thing is trying to focus on the problem that you are solving for your customers, trying to focus on being of service rather than being selfish. Cedric might decide, for example, that he really wants to start this magical fitness studio, but if he looks at the market and realizes that actually no one really cares about magical fitness and there's tons and tons of fitness studios in the area, even if Cedric is super interested in fitness himself, it's probably a pretty bad idea to start that particular business, because it's a real uphill battle to get customers for that particular product. And so thinking in terms of what he's interested in, also what there's a market for, Cedric looks at his list of business ideas and he thinks, Wand Maker's Workshop. What if he starts a business where he could potentially sell custom wands to people who want custom wands? And Cedric liked this idea because when he was in school, he just found himself being quite interested in the idea of wand lore and started reading books about it. And so there's a little bit of a passion there as well. And now Cedric comes up with a name, and because again, he's just using AI because it's just a fairly quick thing, he decides, you know what, let's go for the Wand Studio. That is Cedric's new business. Now, step 2 of the castle method is to assemble your minimum viable product. And again, this is where so many people get it wrong. People think that to start a business, you have have to put in so much work to build a product, and then once you've put in 6 months, a year, 2 years of effort building a product, then you proffer it to the market and you hope that people will come. But the castle method and the method that Daniel Priestley talks about, and in fact the method that every startup who is intelligent in the world follows these days, is starting off by building a minimum viable product where the objective is lead generation.
So you want a very simple MVP. It's just lead generation at first. So all you're trying to do is, can I generate leads? Because everything is downstream from lead generation.
And this is a golden law of business. Everything is downstream of lead generation. If you cannot generate leads for a business, there is no way in hell you're ever going to be able to generate sales for a business. And a lead is basically any indicator of interest. So the point of your minimum viable product, your MVP, is to generate those leads. And the way you get those indicators of interest from the market is by giving away something of value for free and seeing if people are potentially interested in it. I personally recommend giving the thing away for free rather than charging for it, because if it's free and you can't get people to sign up for it, there's no way in hell you're ever going to be able to get people to pay you for anything. So what are the MVPs that you can create for free? Well, there's a bunch of different options, but there's two that I would recommend, and that is either a scorecard or a free webinar. So in the case of One Studio, they could, if they wanted to, create a free webinar, and they could do it on wand making techniques and on the history of wand making or something like that. Let's say you don't want to do the one thing and maybe you want to start a business offering financial services. Now, you probably wouldn't just go to the market and say, hey, buy my financial services. You might offer a free webinar that teaches people about the current trends in the finance markets. And because it's free, people are more likely to sign up for it. You've got your indicators of interest, you've got your lead generation, and you've validated your business idea. So it doesn't take long to put one of these webinars together. And again, in this template, we've got a bunch of different tools that you can use to schedule them completely for free, and you can use that as a way of testing your business idea. But one thing I've started to use recently in my business is to create scorecard minimum viable products. Now, my scorecard is basically a glorified online quiz. And these are great because A, people love filling in online quizzes, and B, you can ask a load of questions to validate your business idea. So we are just going to create one of these scorecards for Cedric's One Studio, and I'm going to show you how easy this is to do. Now, if you want, you can do this on a Google form or a Typeform or anything, but there is a specifically designed app called a Score App, which is actually a company owned by Daniel Priestley, and he actually has a book on it called Scorecard Marketing, and that's the app that we've been using for the last 6 months. And I'll put a link down below, and it's also in the template for a free 30-day trial if you want to try this out. But I'm going to log into my account, and you can see we've got productivity quiz, podcaster, brand income, side hustle, YouTube growth scorecard, the wheel of life. Like, we use scorecards for a lot of things to generate leads for our own business and our own products. But we're going to create a scorecard for the One Studio, and I'm going to show you how easy this is. So let's hit create scorecard, and we're going to use the AI setup wizard. By the way, quick heads up, Score App are not sponsoring this video, but I am an investor in the product. I invested in it like 2 weeks ago, because I just freaking love it because we've been using it so much. So feel free to explore the market if you like, but if you end up using Score App, then it looks good on me because it shows that I'm a good investor because I've plugged the product or something. I don't know, whatever. You can do whatever you want. This is one way of generating quizzes or scorecards for your products, but you can use dozens of other software as well if you really want. Anyway, I'm going to create a scorecard. So my primary goal for the scorecard is to generate new leads. And I actually think something like a which wand is right for you scorecard would make perfect sense. So I want a single outcome. I want to tell the customer what wand type they're going to go for. How would I describe my business? Custom wand. How would you describe your target audience? Harry Potter fans, cosplay enthusiasts, magic show performers. Yeah, let's call it Harry Potter fans. Why not? What do you want to help your clients improve, achieve, or prevent by using the scorecard? Find your perfect wand match is pretty good. Now choose what you'd like the possible outcomes to be. Here are some suggested categories. And let's keep it at 3. We're allowing people to either end up with dragon heartstring, phoenix feather, or unicorn hair, just to keep things simple. Next, phoenix feather, bravery and courage above all else, fierce loyalty, and let's go justice and fairness. Why not? That's for phoenix feather. Gave another feather. Just one other. Okay, good. So I've got my single outcome, find your perfect.
This job market is brutal. It's an employer's market. Here are 3 reasons why. The last one might surprise you. Number 1.
Find your perfect wand match, dragon heartstring, phoenix feather, unicorn hair, 9 questions, create my scorecard, let's see what happens. Discover your perfect wand match with our profile test, answer 9 questions, we'll send you a personalized report. Sick. All right, let's go take the scorecard. Boom. Enter my details. This is clever because when you're doing lead generation and you ask it to enter their details initially, it means you get the contact details. So it's nice. Obviously there's like consent and all that kind of stuff, which you can ask for at the end of it. Do you have a strong desire for power? Yes. Do you believe that the end justifies the means? Hell yes. Do you believe in loyalty above all else? Yeah, why not? Do you value honesty and integrity? Nope. Do you believe in second chances? Hell no. And are you compassionate towards others? Lol. Absolutely not. Congratulations on finding the perfect wand match. Dragon heartstring, this is your profile. And now when I was doing this in the screen recording that didn't record, I adjusted this text to basically say, create a custom call to action. Are you interested in a custom wand? If you'd like to order a really nice, beautiful custom wand, let's jump on a quick, no obligation, 100% free 10-minute Zoom call. And if you want, you can use something like Calendly. But Calendly is really good. You can literally just get people to hop on a 10-minute Zoom call with you and it's completely free. But literally in a very small amount of time, we have created a minimum viable product. And this is where so many people go wrong with businesses. I have seen so many friends and colleagues try and start businesses where they try and charge people from day one. Don't charge people from day one. Right. Offer them something for free. Create a minimum viable product because everything is downstream of lead generation. Now, once you've made loads of money by using a business like this, then you're going to need some way to invest that money. And that's where the sponsor of this video comes in, and that is Trading 212. Trading 212 is a fantastic online platform that offers zero commission investing and also fractional shares. And it was actually the first platform in the UK and Europe to offer both of these services. I've been using Trading 212 since last year to manage my own personal stock portfolio. And one of the things I love about it is the fact that you can auto invest, which means every month you can put in X amount of money into your stocks and shares portfolio. And the other really cool thing about it is that they've got these social pies. Now, social pies are interesting because basically loads of other investors have created pies of stocks and shares or funds or a little basket of investments. And you can look at what these pies are and you can compare the performance of these different pies and look at who created the pie. And then completely for free, pies are, and you can social pies. Put in X amount of money into your stocks and shares portfolio. And the other really cool thing about it is that they've got pies are, and you can compare the completely for free. You can just copy and paste the pie into your own account. And so you can copy the exact asset allocation of all these famous investors. Now, as you guys know, if you've been watching my videos for any length of time, I prefer to generally invest most of my money into broad stock market index funds like the S&P 500, where I have the vast majority of my net worth. But I do keep some amount of money aside to play around with individual stock picking. And that is where I personally find Trading 212 and the social pies feature particularly helpful. Trading 212 is also great because if you're not yet fully comfortable with using real money to invest, because of course your investments may rise as well as fall, then they've got a whole way of investing using fake money, where you can just use fake money to invest in the real markets. And you can see how you would have done had you invested real money. And then whenever you're ready, you can just switch to the real money version of the app. Now, if you're interested in potentially signing up for Trading 212 to start or continue your investing journey, then head over to the link in the video description. You can download Trading 212 on the App Store. And if you enter the promo code Ali in the promo code section of the app, then you'll get a completely free share with a value of up to £100. So thank you so much, Trading 212, for sponsoring this video, and let's continue. Now we are on to step 3, which is shape your product towards product market fit.
Product market fit is adjusting the product to meet the market. So you imagined the product would be red, but everyone wants it in blue. And you're like, okay, as much as I thought it should be red, it needs to be blue.
Now, generally when people are building actual startups in the real world, they spend several months, if not sometimes years, on continuing to refine their product until they've got product market fit. In my wand maker business, I might think that people really want custom wands and will be willing to pay $100 for them. But as I hop on Zoom calls with people and try and sell my custom wands for $100, I realize people don't want that. People want a really basic wand because they want to learn about the introduction to wand lore in the first place. And so my product might actually change. Instead of it being, I sell custom wands, I might realize through market validation and market research, actually, I should make a wand craft school because people are way more likely to buy an online course in wand lore, and then I can upsell them on my fancy custom wand further down the line, rather than get them to buy a fancy wand straight up. And that's something I wouldn't have known had I not actually validated my idea by talking to my customers and testing the idea out. We really noticed this in my own business when I created my part-time YouTuber Academy. So we started off, our minimum viable product was actually just a quiz. At the time, ScoreApp wasn't a thing, so we just used a Google form. We asked people, when it comes to starting your YouTube channel, what's your biggest challenge? Now, the product I had in my mind, I thought I was gonna make a course that taught people with over 100,000 subscribers how to scale their systems and delegate and hire a team and build a business around their YouTube channel. But when we put the scorecard out on my email list and on Twitter, turns out 99% of people had not even started a YouTube channel in the first place, and like 0.01% of people that filled out the survey had more than 100,000 subscribers. And so that was completely like, whoa, shit, okay. I thought I was building a product for a tiny, tiny, tiny component of the market, which is what they needed. But turns out, actually, my audience is broadly full of noobs, no offense when it comes to YouTube. And so the product molded to become way more beginner friendly, because in my mind, the product was very different, but what the market told me was something else. And so we got product market fit, and then the Part-Time YouTuber Academy ended up being a multi-million-dollar product. Now, there are some other caveats here, like this is a really, really huge topic, how to start a business. I wanna talk about J-curve versus non-J-curve businesses and what type of businesses that you should start, but this video is gonna be way too long for the algorithm. I mean, it's probably still too long. And so all of the information that I wanna say is now inside this template. Again, it's completely free. There's a link to my website down below. You can just download the Notion template. So that will give you the 5-step castle framework and also way more information around the other stuff that I couldn't quite squeeze into this video because we have to keep to time. Step 4 is to launch your product, i.e. go to market. Go-to-market is once you've got product market fit and now you're ready to launch and you're ready to put marketing firepower behind your product. And at this point, you might be spending money on paid ads. You might be hiring influencers like me to shill your product on their YouTube channels. You might be going out and, I don't know, old school knocking on doors and like trying to sell the product to people. You're doing that kind of stuff to get more people in because you've validated your idea and you've molded your product based on a small number of customers that you had early on.
The other thing that triggers every single sale is a combination of emotion.
I still have a spreadsheet on my desktop that has 86 no's of it's too early, I don't think the market's big enough, but to quit because people told me no, I just couldn't do that. I became the first Black woman to raise more than $1 million.
Logic and urgency. So I've found that all businesses are only really naturally good at one. So some businesses naturally are good at generating emotion in their customers, but not logic or urgency. Some businesses are really good with the logical side of why you should buy, but they're not very good at the emotion or the urgency. And great businesses, they understand how to do logic, emotion, and urgency in the right doses.
So a company like Apple, for example, is really good at all of these different things. They create logic because it makes you feel like I'm buying the new iPhone for a reason because of all the marketing materials that say, oh, hello, the camera is X% better than last time. They create emotion because all of the stuff in the Apple keynotes and the ads make you feel an emotional sense of like, I really need to have this iPhone so then I can be a cool person. And they create urgency by allowing you to pre-order even your pre-order because you know that the new iPhone is going to sell out, and therefore there's a sense of like, I need to have this now rather than further down the line. And then step 5E is expand and scale up.
Scale is multiple locations. Now we're going to go out so we might start in London and then go out to Los Angeles and New York and different locations. So we're going to go scale is normally new products, new markets, new territories.
This is a place where very few people get to because very few businesses actually get to the point where they even launch because people get hamstrung along the way by not giving things away for free. And scale is basically multiple locations, multiple markets. This is stuff that I am just now dipping my toes into, but I'm nowhere near an expert on it, and so I don't really want to kind of over-egg my expertise on this particular area. This is where it's really helpful to have a CEO coach or a business coach. We spend thousands of dollars a month on my own CEO coach, Eric Partaker. He's great. He's scaled a bunch of businesses in the past. He really is helping us with scaling ours. Like all of that fun stuff comes in. If you're interested in learning more about these sorts of marketing principles and how to get customers to buy your product, then 2 amazing books I'd recommend. The first is $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi, and the second is .com Secrets by Russell Brunson. And also, if you have a launch-based business, Oversubscribed by Dan Priestley, which, as I said, is my most highlighted book of all time for business stuff. Those books will teach you a lot of what you need to know to get your product out there. But I suspect if you're watching this video, you probably haven't started a business yet. It'll be too much. This book is not aimed at beginners. Start by conceptualizing, by assembling your MVP, and by getting product market fit. And once you've done that and you've got some customers for your product, which you've molded to meet the needs of the market, at that point you can worry about copywriting and sales and marketing and emotion, logic, urgency, and all this kind of stuff. But the main thing to remember from this video is that every single thing is downstream of lead generation. Find a way to validate your business idea by getting customers in for free via a scorecard or a webinar or a landing page or whatever you want. And then once you've validated your business idea, actually have conversations with your customers to get product market fit, and then you can worry about all the stuff later. And we do talk in way more detail about all of these steps in the long form podcast interview that I did with Daniel Priestley. So that is on my deep dive podcast channel over here. You can also find it on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, but that is sick. So if you liked this video and you've gotten to the end of it, you will absolutely love that episode. The comments on it are like, oh my God, I can't believe this is free. So check it out completely for free over there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you hopefully in the next one. Bye.
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos, wondering why you can't find the motivation to do the things you need or want to do or change in the ways you'd like. Even thinking about your mental health and all that it entails.
Sometimes I feel a little stuck, like there's too many options, and if I choose the wrong one, well, my life might just fall apart. And I find that I distract myself so I don't even have to make a choice. My mornings look the same every day. Wake up at 7, do a little bit of exercise, make a yummy breakfast, eat an apple, and then my favorite part, having a cup of coffee. After that, I like to go for a walk where I can think of new ideas. And that's when it happens, every time. I start to question everything. Am I making the right decision? Do I really know what I'm doing? How will all of this come together? And my mind starts to race. But it wasn't always like this. For a while, I didn't have to make any choices. They were made for me.
Andrew, can you take the trash out?
Yeah. It's not that I didn't know what I was going to do, it's that others made all of my choices. All I had to do was listen. Until one day I realized I wanted to do something different. I picked up a camera for the first time in 2018. I had a fascination with images, mainly images that convey an emotion. I quickly realized that I didn't know how to take photos, but I went for it. I would go out every day and just try to capture a photo that meant something to me. I tried so hard for years to get big jobs and take my photography to the next level, but it never happened. Honestly, I wanted to give up. I felt like I had made the wrong choice in this pursuit. But with every day that passed, I continued showing up. And 5 years after I picked up a camera for the first time, I was asked to shoot for Grammy Award-winning artist Daya.
Grammy goes to Daya, Don't Let Me Down. And thank you.
I felt like I wasn't ready for this opportunity, mainly because I always viewed my work and my skills still as a beginner. I had never worked on a set before, so to be thrusted into the lion's den, I felt I was out of my depths. But just as I did every day leading up to it, I tried to capture a photo that would convey an emotion. There was something so surprising about realizing how far I had come simply by showing up every day and trying to learn something new with each day. Looking back, I realized that the fears and doubts that you have when starting something new don't always go away, and sometimes they morph into new fears. But being able to ignore them and press forward, you realize they hold no weight. And that takes us to our next endeavor, which didn't go so well. I've always wanted to create some sort of brand, and after a few years of doing photography, my friend Meredith and I decided to create a brand to bring creatives together. It was called Made by Saturday. The goal was simple: create a brand that would bring not only our friends together, but also creatives. We had never done anything like this before, so we weren't sure how to start. There was a strange piece in not having any expectations of what it could be. Our main goal? Bring people together. And that's exactly what we did. We designed shirts and sweaters and hosted our first pop-up, and it went perfectly. Musicians, baristas, and a lot of our friends came. We also sold out of everything that we designed. From there, me and Meredith were eager to get back to the drawing board, and that is where it all changed. You see, after our first pop-up, I had put an unrealistic expectation on myself. The feeling of being successful had polluted my thinking. I didn't want to be viewed anymore as a failure, which led me to play it safe. I found myself disagreeing with Mare on her ideas. I didn't want to do anything that was a maybe. It had to be perfect. I found that in the beginning stages of doing anything new, you'll be bad, and you need to be okay with that, because that allows you the freedom to explore and try new things. The lack of embracing that ultimately led to the end of Made by Saturday. And experiencing all of that is what allowed me to follow through with endeavor number 3. YouTube. Something that I always wanted to do, yet at the same time it seemed like an impossible dream. I was already editing for a YouTuber and I knew how to make videos, but anytime I clicked record to film myself, it seemed like I didn't know what I was doing. There's a harsh reality in starting new things. First, it's exciting, and then that excitement wears off really fast. You go through a process of uncertainty and fear, and it's easy to connect your identity with what you're doing. To everyone else, it was a cute little hobby. But to me, it was something more. It was something that I had to see through. I had grown tired of starting new things and never finishing them. I knew that this time it would have to be different. I would have to give a new level of focus. And that is where Brick comes in. Brick is a physical device that temporarily removes distracting apps. But how? First, you choose the apps you want to block, and then you brick your phone. This is different than the time limit feature on your phone because you can't just add more time. With Brick, if the physical device isn't with you, you can't open the app, which means I can use my phone more as a tool and less of a distraction. So what are you waiting for? Use the link in the description below to get 10% off your next purchase. And thank you, Brick, for sponsoring this video. Ultimately, the pursuit of these 3 things have taught me that you can't just wait around and keep wondering if you're making the right choice. A mentor of mine used to tell me, instead of hoping you're doing the right thing, make it the right thing.
Yes, sir.
There was something so simple about that. I don't think any great inventor or artist started out with 100% confidence in their idea. And even as they pursued it, they probably encountered a lot of discouragement. I found that within all 3 of these pursuits, I had to deal with comparison in the early stages. I compare my day 1 to someone's day 1000, and I don't think that's very fair. I also found that I can't hold myself to expectations I can't control. For example, how people receive my art or my videos. I can only control the quality. So if there's 100 people like it or 100,000 people, it doesn't change the quality or the importance of the thing I did. So maybe using the fact you don't know how it'll all work out as a reason not to do it, maybe it's the very reason you should do it. I wanted to film this part because this is the reality of the process. Like, you're making something and you don't think it's great, but you just got to keep moving forward, I guess. And I feel like we can watch videos like this and get really inspired and like, oh, I'm just gonna go do it. And it negates the reality of the emotions that you actually feel when you embark on that thing. I took footage of me writing. I kid you not, I'm literally writing this right now, and I just was like, is this even good? Like, what? I don't even know. And I feel like the script so far in the video is good, but now that I'm halfway through or whatever, I'm just like, what? Yeah, essentially the intro to my video, like, you start and then all of a sudden you hit something, and then in your mind you're just like, dude, I don't even know if this is good. And yeah, it was really hard. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to make this video perfect because my last one did so well, and I didn't want to feel like I was taking a step back. I wanted to feel like I was progressing. And the whole time while making it, it was just like, no, the voices in my head of like, no, this isn't a good idea, this is dumb, this is bad. I realized I wanted to talk about that because you can watch a video like this and just be inspired to go do something, but that doesn't mean that those voices won't be there. Having the understanding of like, I'm gonna go through these like ebbs and flows, but if I can just remain consistent through it, the final product will be so worth it. So I'm like halfway through the video. I don't feel great about the video, to be honest. I'm just gonna keep making it, and hopefully by the time you're watching this part, you'll have seen the whole thing and think, dang, that was a good video, and I'm glad he stuck with it. So I said this in my last video as well, that for everyone that watches this video, only about 20% of people will make it to this part. And if you are a part of that 20%, leave a comment letting me know that you're a part of the 20%, but also what are those questions and those fears that keep coming up every time you think about something you want to pursue? And maybe, I don't know, someone can read the comment and they've gone through that thing. They can tell you like, hey, it's that none of that is true, and you can make it through. But yeah, I don't know, guys. Hopefully by the time I'm done this, the video will be, I'm just rambling. I hope this video was good. Anyway, love you guys.
Alright. So the moral of, or the message
Hey,
of
Ryan
today
Reynolds here
is
for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial.
getting started.
No.
Just started. Sure, throughout the journey, or you know, in the middle of it, you're gonna be like, dang, what am I doing? Should I keep going? Should I keep doing whatever it is this is? But at least you started. That's our takeaway from today. Just start. Go ahead, get started. Go ahead, start him up. You know what I'm saying? So that's another episode of Expansion Pack. This is episode 3 of Expansion Pack, ironically. We only counting from right now. So I will check y'all out tomorrow. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. This is DGTA TV. Get us some background music. Peace.